Today is the 16th of May and there's the Mr. D thermal cooker. We're going out for a few hours today, so it'll be a good time to do it. We're going to do a French meal, Carbonnade or Flamande, which is basically a posh name for beef stew. That's the inside of the Mr. D. It goes in there like that. Anyway, I'm going to start preparing. The proper name for this is Carbonnade de Boeuf à la Flamande. Beef and beer, you can translate that as. Now, the French recipe I originally got from a very, very ancient old French cookbook of from a BBC series. A girl, I think, called Muriel something or other, when she passed away, and the recipe, that's the prime recipe, which I'll put down below, and it doesn't involve what I've added to it. And what I've added to it is, in fact, carrot, and I will be adding mushrooms to it. But basically, apart from that, the recipe is the same. Also, I tend to like my beef diced a bit small. Some people do, like in steak and kidney pie. Some people like a big lumps of meat. I'm not that keen on it, but the original French recipe is larger lumps than that. Anyway, so we're going to start this now, and the first thing I'm going to be doing is frying the onions in a frying pan. I'll put that in a Mr. D. Then I'll fry some meat, the meat until they're brown. Put that in the frying pan. Add the rest of the stuff, the liquid, and then I shall start cooking it. Right, onions in first. While I'm doing it, it's Muriel Johnson's. That's the name of the book. French cookery course. She's passed away a long time ago. Quite young. She did part 1 and part 2 of the books, but I don't think you can buy them anymore. That book, I think it's out of print. Anyway, there goes in the onions, which I'm going to fry. Now that's part of the original recipe. I've got it in olive oil. But you'll notice I've got bacon. Pancetta would be a better choice, but it's not part of the original recipe. So when I do the recipe below, I'll do the original plus my variations, which I've got from various different sources and my own ideas. I mean, I think it's very hard in cooking to say that something's your idea. I'm sure somebody's always done something else similar or along the same lines. So I wanted to get the onions frying, split up. The original recipe says onions should be peeled, cut in quarters, and then split into layers. Yeah, I could do that. I just find I like them sliced in this kind of French meals. I do it with the Boeuf Provençal. I prefer sliced onions. But you want the original recipe, if there is such a thing, quartered and then split. And then what I'm going to do, I'm adding the bacon to this as well, so we can fry them in both. Fry the bacon and onion together. And I've also got some garlic, which will go in at some point. So for the time being, we'll get these fried up. I mean, once it gets a little bit further towards the end, I'm going to add the garlic. So you see, we'll just a slight tinge of brown on the onions, and then they can go in the Mr. D. Of course, it'll be reduced. Now, Mr. D, do remember, I'll show it to you, has to be about 3/4 full at least in order to work properly. And so you've got to use beer with it. And so I'm using a Yorkshire beer called Golden Sheep. It should only be, I think, a glass, but I'm bugging the whole lot in. Oh, I see the date out of date was 2 years ago. Oh well. Let's have a look at another one. I've got a Doom bar here. This is Doom bar. Can't work out the date on that. Also the same, about 2 years old, I think. Well, that's got stuff floating in it, so I think that's probably added. So that one there's gone. So we'll try the pale ale. I hope that's all right. That's what comes when you don't drink a lot. Right, The garlic's now going in. And because I want to, I'm putting the onions, the tomatoes in. Just you could put them in raw into the stew at the end, but it all adds to flavouring just to put them in there with the final fry up of the onions. All adds to the flavour. Oh, it's one of my long hairs. It's just beginning to turn on the brown. You can see the onions just beginning to turn. I'll say of any times, you know, onions are a key to cooking lots of dishes. Now, in Indian food, you want the onions to red, dark brown. In Chinese, you want them to red soft. In stews, you want them so they're soft but a little bit of brown tinge. And all of those reflect on the flavour in my judgment. Anyway, there we go. This will also do very well in a slow cooker. And if you look over here at the back there, that is a Remoska Tria. They'll do very well in the Remoska Tria as well. The Remoska Tria you can buy at Lakeside, the shopping centres, food shoppings in the UK. About £200, or under £200. They do a smaller one, a standard Remoska, which I think is only really good for cakes, big bread, small bread, loaves of bread, cakes, and small chickens and small roasts. There are people that say you can do stews in them, and I let them support that argument. If you look at my website, you'll see that really it takes too long to fry onions in a Remoska using the heated lid. The Remoska has a heated lid, but I do recommend the Tria. I think. Oh, right, there's the meat. Put in a little bit at a time. And the reasoning is, well, that's a big lump, I've got that. The reasoning is that if you put it all in at once, it starts to stew. Just want to brown that up a bit. I should actually cut one. There's one, two big ones, but I'll leave them there. That's it there now. Just to brown everything up. Well, I've started to fry the meat. You can see I've done it to nut brown, and I'm now going to add that to the stew, which is in the Mr. D. Juices and everything go in. Oops. I'm going to pick up that on the floor in a minute. There you go. So juices and in go in. Right, so we're now getting to the stage where we can move the pan, Mr. D, onto the hotter pan. But I need to turn it right down. turn it right down. I put the beef in there, into the Mr. D. There's a tiny little bit of, I'm afraid we've run out of dry thyme. The fresh thyme's only just started in the garden. We got about a tablespoon of that. But there's a phrase, something in the mystery of invention, and I'm going to ask Corey to do about, slice up about those mushrooms. So we're going to put some mushrooms in it as well. Anyway, so because I'm missing a bit of seasoning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of, there's no harm, you could do it in anything really. I'm adding a little teaspoonful of Italian mixed herbs. So that's in there now. So give it a good stir. And I'm going to put this now on there. And I'm going to add the beer. The beer's gone in. Give that a bit of time. Let's bring that over there. There's the beer. The beer's gone in. It should be half a pint of beer in there. Now I suppose this is about 3/4 of a pint, but we'll bung it in. That's it. Right, so now what I've got to do is I've got to stir this round and bring this up to the boil. And then because it's a bit low, I may have to add. Everything about Mr. D works if you keep things hot. So if there's too much space between there and then, I will add that with water inside it, so it reduces the height of the vacuum, if you like. So anyway, that's going in there now. And now we're going to add a bit of thickener.
I'm going to make a noise.
Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to add the mushrooms in, and the wife's going to do some grinding with what do you call it? Coffee. So I'll put the mushrooms in there. Now in here is corn flour, or ordinary flour you can use. The recipe says, originally the recipe says 1 tablespoon. There's probably 2 in here. I'm adding that. Right, and now the idea is to bring this up to the boil. But I need to put some salt in, and I don't have any rock salt. I don't have any sea salt, which I should have. For some reason, unknown to me, we have purchased rock salt, which I'd never thought about if I'd thought about it a bit more carefully. Anyway, so rock salt's gone in there, about a teaspoon. And I'll bring this up to heat. I've got the stew in there now, coming up to a boil, which I'll then turn down to simmer. I'll simmer it for about 10-15 minutes. In there, I'm simmering hot water, which I'm going to put that pan on top. And the reason is to fill up the vacuum. Well, the meat's been on now for simmering for 15 minutes. It's now going in the Mr. D. You've got to line this up with the handle, so I don't know if you can see that, the handle's there. Right, I'm going to move the one with the water. I need to pick that up somehow, so I need to get the handles up. That's it. Right, So that's the water in there. Right. I'll just bring that back up to the boil. Water. Right, so that's in there now. I'm taking that off now. I'm going to put the water on there. Put the handles down. Put the lid on. Put this lid over. Make sure it clicks. Take a strap. If your Mr. D hasn't got a strap, you need to put something heavy on top, like books and stuff. It's very important there's a seal. And then that's now done. Put it tight. Because it's got water in it, you have to keep it upright. If it was fully cooking with normal food or something, you can almost leave it on its side and stuff. It won't make any difference. But really, there we go.